Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the June 5 meeting of the Hillsborough TPO Citizens Advisory Committee. My name is Rick Fernandez. I have the privilege of chairing this group. As is our normal course, I'm going to go around to the left here and ask everyone to introduce themselves and to identify their appointing authority. Again, I'm Rick Fernandez. I'm the Hispanic at-large representative. Mr. Davis.
Jim Davidson, appointed by Commissioner Wassel.
Steve Jones at large.
Joseph Citro, appointed by Commissioner Harry Cohen.
Carolyn Brown, appointed by Commissioner Myers.
And Bill Roberts, I was appointed by the Aviation Authority.
Amelia, I am the under 30 at-large chair.
Greg James at large, representative West Chase area.
Olivia Adams at large.
Ed Majewski, appointed by the Expressway Authority.
Eddie Yasmin, appointed by the city of Central Paris.
Don Skelton, appointed by the board.
Sarah Keeper, I am TPO staff. I'm your CEC liaison.
And do we have members on the virtual screen?
I see we do. Yeah, Linda?
Yes, I'm Linda Eubanks and I'm representing Hart.
And Linda, welcome. Anyone else? Virtually? Dana?
Dana Lazarus, appointed by City Councilwoman Lynn Hurtak.
All right, thank you. Hopefully that covered everyone that's either here in person or on the screen. Dale, if you'd be so kind, call the roll for declaration of in-house quorum.
Yes, sir. Rick Fernandez,
Here.
Stephen Hollenkamp, Dana Lazarus,
Here.
Jim Davison,
Here.
Carolyn Brown.
Present.
Hoyt Prindle is excused. Michael Deckers also excused. Joseph Citro.
I am here.
Christina Costa is excused. Matt Sink. Aya Yassin.
Present.
Bill Roberts.
Here.
Don Skelton.
Here.
Ed Majewski.
Here.
Artie Fryer. Linda Eubanks.
I'm here.
Thank you. Ilya Lashnov.
Here.
Greg James.
Here.
Chris Vella. Chris Gonzalez is excused. Dustin Johnson is excused. Ms. Adam, would you mind pronouncing your first name for me?
Sure, it's Ivia.
Ivia Adams.
Here.
Raymond Budd is also excused, and Stephen Jones.
Here.
We do have an in-person quorum.
All right, Gail, thank you. That takes us to public comment. Is there anyone in the room that wishes to speak to us? Doesn't look like it, at least not at this point in the meeting. Anyone online? No? No hands? Nothing? Okay. Chair's report, very briefly. As you know, we are here tonight, among other things, to review the Transportation Improvement Program. This is our annual rite of passage. Next week, at about this time, the TPO board will go through the similar process in their public hearing. So just be advised, and obviously, if you have anything in particular on the tip, if you're particularly passionate about, want to have that board meeting on your calendar next week, and offer your public comment in addition to whatever your comments today may offer by way of recommendations to the board. TPO board actions. Let me see. Last month, the TPO board approved the Access 2050 plan needs assessment of the major projects. Performance data, which was not approved by the CAC and failed here by a vote of 7-3, passed at the board level. The TPO board also approved the 2024 State of the System report, which was approved unanimously here by the CAC the week prior. And, okay, as we've already touched upon, we have some new members in the House. Linda Eubanks, representing Hart online. Linda, again, welcome. Hope we get a chance to see you here live in full color next, well, not next month. We won't be here again till August, right? Yeah. Okay. Dustin Johnson, at large. He has a prior conflict, won't be with us. Via Adams,
Yes.
did I butcher that?
It's close, we'll get it.
Close enough? Okay, well, you have more faith in me than I do. At-large representative, welcome. Raymond Budd, prior conflict, and Stephen Jones at large to my left. Stephen Hollenkamp walked in during the opening comments. Stephen, would you introduce yourself, please, and your appointing authority?
Yeah, hey, everybody. Sorry I'm late. Stephen Mollenkamp from the city of Plant City.
And he is our vice chair. Okay, that takes us, I think, and anything else for the chair's report to the minutes, hopefully, yes.
Don't worry, no, there's coffee in the back. Thanks.
Okay, there's coffee and cookies. There you go. We're here until, well, we're scheduled to be here till 9 o'clock tonight. Hopefully, we won't be here until 9 o'clock. But staff is kind enough to provide us sustenance on those days that we run a little long, and that's because of the tip. It usually winds up taking us a little further. Please mute your persistence. The tip review usually takes us a little bit longer, which is why we're scheduled to go to 9. Ordinarily, we would be scheduled to 7 or 8 o'clock. In any event, you have goodies in the back. Minutes. Hopefully, you've had an opportunity to review the minutes from the May 1, 2024 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Mr. Citro moves. Is there a second? Second from Mr. Davison. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, I'll ask for a vote by acclamation. All in favor of approval, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The record should reflect unanimous approval. All right, that tees up our action items. We have fiscal year 25-29 Transportation Improvement Program update. Wade Reynolds.
We're just checking. We heard that the video was a little static, but people are hearing us okay, so we're just checking to make sure we're on. Yep, that's what it went. And we're just making sure we're on the right Wi-Fi network.
Yes, it's working good.
Good evening, Chair and committee members. Good to see you all, Wade Reynolds, TPO staff, and I'm here to talk you through the fiscal years 25 through 2029 transportation program updates. So first, a bit of information to decode the TIP. What is the TIP? So our 25-year long-range transportation plan, which is also being updated right now, is the broad plan. While the 5-year TIP is a specific funding plan and spending plan that is updated annually. So what is required for adoption? The TIP must show consistency with the adopted long-range transportation plan, developed in coordination with FDOT, HART, and the jurisdictions. It includes regionally significant projects, highway and transit projects to be funded by the Federal Highway Administration or Federal Transit Administration. It must be cost feasible, must be developed in consultation with the public, and must have a criteria for prioritizing projects. So what projects are in the TIP? Table 1 is the existing priorities that have been funded from new construction. So typically these are things that have been on Table 2 for some time and have finally been able to receive some money. We are usually able to fund between 10 and 15 projects per year that way. Table 2, candidates for new funding. Those are priorities of the TPO. We add to them each year. The jurisdictions submit lists of projects that are then incorporated, ranked and incorporated into that list based on the funding type that they're going after. And table 3 is all other projects funded in the next 5 years. So it includes the FDOT work program, local capital improvements programs, including the port and airports, and HART, and can include planning studies and other miscellaneous projects. So where do the projects on table 1 come from? They're priorities of the community, and they have now received some construction funding to land on this table. They remain on table 1 until they're. Where do projects on table 2 come from? These are considered priorities of the community. The rank corresponds to the anticipated impact each will have on the area of performance. Again, they remain on this list until they are funded, or until their sponsoring authority requests that they be removed. Table 3, where do they come from? FDOT projects, local jurisdiction projects on their capital improvement programs, whether or not they're receiving any funding from the TPO. Planning studies and other projects that are not easily classified. And then local projects, as I mentioned, are included for coordination, but are not required to be included in the TIP. And the TPO does not control which projects are funded with local dollars, although we do have veto authority over projects funded with federal dollars, the board does, I should say. So how are priorities ranked in table 2? The jurisdictions submit lists of projects to be added to the priority list. We categorize them into the investment programs. We find data and evaluate each of those projects, which results in a rank among other comparable projects within that funding type. And then how are those projects funded? For each priority, the TPO staff suggests a funding source that best matches the goals of the project, the jurisdiction, and the type of facility. Capital improvements programs are typically funded with local dollars, and again, we cannot control those. So I just, to sort of break down some of these acronyms that are a little more common, I pulled this slide. SU, Service Transportation Block Grants. TA is Transportation Alternatives, and I'll go through a couple of these in a minute with some example projects. CARU, that's Carbon Reduction. TRIP is Transportation Regional Incentive Program. SIGP, County Incentive Grant Program. HSIP, Highway Safety Improvement Program, and then District Dedicated Funds and other competitive federal grants. To give you a couple of examples there, SU projects they're very flexible. Service Transportation Block Grant, that can be transit, bridge, roadway, bicycle, or pedestrian projects. TA programs, transportation alternatives, that will typically be sidewalk, bike, and trail projects. CARU, that we have those pointed towards filling sidewalk gaps on the high entry network. SunTrail funds, that has to be on the SunTrail system. In this case, the most recent project this year to get any funding is the South Coast Greenway overpass over Big Bend Road. SIGP, the Twigs urban corridor improvements that are coming along downtown.
I bet.
It's all right. Are an example of that type of funding. Counties are eligible for that, but they can do pass through to the cities, so anywhere within a county. Transportation Regional Incentive Program, that's regionally significant projects on a list approved by the Suncoast Transportation Planning Alliance. The ones in Hillsborough County are Big Bend Road, the HART Heavy Maintenance Facility, and the HART BRT project on Florida Avenue. And FTA, that's Federal Transit Administration, that's transit projects, buses, and capital equipment. So highlights from some of the updated tables. Existing priorities funded for construction in table 1. These are new additions. The HART CAT ABL replacement system under State of Good Repair and Resilience. Also HART bus replacements and bus stop capital repairs. Under Vision Zero, and there are a few more on the next page, which I'll get to. McDill Avenue it's actually from Platt Street to Main Street. US 41 from Idlewild Avenue to Paris Street. Fowler from Florida Avenue to 56th. And 78th Street from Causeway to Palm River Road. Under Real Choices when not driving, the South Coast Greenway overpass at Big Bend Road I just mentioned, and the Plant City Canal Connector Trail Phase 1. Under major investments for economic growth, US 41 south of Condola Point has been added. The final piece of Big Bend Road from US 41 to Covington Gardens Drive has additional funding. I-4 from west of the I-75 northbound off-ramp to Mako Road has new funding. And the Suncoast Parkway from south of Van Dyke Road to Pasco County Line has new funding, and that's it. Some more projects under Vision Zero, intersections at Fletcher Avenue and 15th Street, State Road 60 at Horton Road, East Alexander Street at Jim Johnson Road, and Park Road at Cornet Road and also Brook Street. Under major investments for economic growth, we have I-275 from Howard to north of the Hillsborough River, I-275 southbound off-ramp to I-4 north of Fort Nebraska to west of 21st ramp widening. That is part of the downtown interchange project. And I-75 at Gibsonton Drive, that is a diverging diamond interchange on Gibsonton. Under candidates for new funding in table 2 that have come from the jurisdictions, under state of good repair and resilience, we added bus replacements and bus maintenance midlife overhauls. Repair and replacement of the Hart heavy maintenance facility, bus stop capital repairs throughout the system, and the Hart radio system replacements. Under Vision Zero, we added Bush at Himes, Florida Ave at Bears, State Road 674 from 301 to County Road 579, that's the Waimama area. US 41 at Sunset Lane, a pedestrian signal at 56th and Sawaha in Temple Terrace, US 92 at Gallagher Road, Waters Avenue from Armenia to Florida, West Shore Boulevard from Gandy to Kennedy, and Sly Avenue from Armenia to Nebraska. Under smart cities, these were typically new signals, Bayshore at both Euclid and Rome Avenues, McDill Avenue at Green Street, North Boulevard at Laurel Street, and Alexander Street at 3 locations, Baker, Thanodisasa, and Reynolds. Also Columbus Avenue at Rome, Himes Avenue at Beach, and North 56th and 113th. Under real choices when not driving, candidates for new funding, the Spruce Street ditch closure and trail, that will be just west of Dale Mabry. 7th Avenue from Ola to Nuccio Parkway, that's basically from Ybor to Armature Works. Tampa Citywide Bike Network, connections to potential Brightline station, and circuit Hart Downtown Circulator Capital and Operations. Under major investments for economic growth, we have 2 new additions this year. US 92 to widen from 2 to 4 lanes from Maryland Avenue to County Line Road. That's the full county line. And 122nd Avenue Bridge over the Tampa Bypass Canal. Yes.
I'm sorry, when you say they're added, that means they're added for design and construction?
No, this is the priority list. These are new priorities. Yes. That was a Temple Terrace addition. So a summary of projects funded in the work program in the next 5 years by project type. The largest blue color there that you see is major investments for economic growth, our major projects category. The darker blue is miscellaneous projects that can include several types, planning studies, landscaping, and other things. Pink is the state of good repair and resilience. That is 15%. Orange is real choices when not driving. That is 11.3%. The light purple is Vision Zero projects at about 1.8%, and the smart cities is the darker purple, the smallest category there, less than 1%. Interstate capacity projects in the tip, several segments of I-75, or excuse me, I-275 from all the way from the Howard Franklin Bridge to downtown Tampa and through the interchange to include those projects. That construction typically looks, it will be going from now through at least 2029. Other capacity interchange projects, I-4 at Orient, from Orient Road to I-75. I-4 from I-75 to Mango Road. And the I-75 at Gibsonton to Virgin Diamond interchange that I mentioned earlier. Under overall capacity projects, not on the interstate system, State Road 574, that's Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, widened from 2 to 4 lanes from Kingsway to McIntosh. State Road 60 from Valrico to Dover, that is widened from 4 to 6 lanes. That construction is programmed for after 2029. US 41 from Madison to Denver, widened from 4 to 6 lanes. That construction is in 2027, fiscal year 2027. Big Bend Road is projected to be complete by 2026. And the Suncoast Parkway from 4 to 8 lanes from Van Dyke Road to the Pasco County line, design in 2027, construction after 2029. Several Vision Zero urban corridor improvements in the tip. I put them all here to give you an idea of just all they are. Bush Boulevard from Dale Mabry to Nebraska, Florida Ave from MLK to Waters. The next two are sort of combined, but Tampa Highland and Violet from MLK to Waters, and then Tampa and Florida Street from Tyler to MLK. So that's basically from downtown all the way up to Waters. George Road from Dana Shore to the Town and Country Greenway. Fowler from Florida to 56th. Twigs from Ashley to Nebraska, which I mentioned earlier as a SIGP project. Lois from Cleveland to Boy Scout. McDill from Kennedy to Main Street. And Nebraska from Idlewild to Paris. Under Real Choices When Not Driving, the Green Spine, Cass Street, which is on Cass Street from Howard to Rome. State Road 39 / Alexander Street from James Redmond Parkway to I-4, a sidewalk, filling sidewalk gaps in that location. Fowler from 56 to east of I-75. That is a trail project. East of I-75 is where it hits the bypass canal. So that's a connection basically from USF to the bypass canal on Fowler. And sidewalk gaps in various locations focused on the high entry network. Landscaping projects, Mr. Chair, there are about 16 or so million in here. I just wanted to include this since it was asked about last month. One that may interest you here is I-275 from I-4 to Hillsborough. There's about 3 million in there for that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Next steps. TPO staff review new priority projects. Those are the table 2 ones and funding requests. The project ranking will inform funding recommendations for programming next year in the tip. FDOT will consider those recommendations as they work through programming those ones. When will the project get built? With few exceptions, no new additions to the priority list are seeking funding for fiscal year 30. So it would be fiscal year 30 or later for most of those projects in table 2.
And like fiscal year 30, state fiscal year 30.
Yes, sorry.
Which for our new members is July 2029 to June 2030.
Okay. Project urgency should be a consideration for the local governments when submitting those projects. Milestones. On May 12th, the draft tip was made available to the public for a 30-day review. May and now into June. The draft tip and priority list presented to committees for your approval. At the end of May, we did publish notices in the newspapers, mailed over 6,000 flyers, and put over 60 signs out along the major projects. And compliance checks prior to final submittal to FDOT, which we are in the process. Presentation schedule, here we are June 5th at CAC. We have already received recommendations of approval from LRC, BPAC, and TAC. And this will go to public hearing at the PPO board next Wednesday, June 12th. And the recommended action is to approve the tip update for fiscal years 2024-25 through fiscal years 2028-29, and approve the tip priority list table 2. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Wait, if I might, before I release you to the group, I just have a question just for clarification. In reviewing it's the transportation improvement program for the system fiscal year. The draft document that was included in our agenda packet, about 200 pages long, that thing. At not page 100, assuming my note here is correct, there is an appendix that speaks to projects that may be subject to Florida statute 339.175, paren D, paren 8. This is the beyond the point of no return statute. And you were, I don't want to keep on talking. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you have a sheet attached to that cover document. And I just want to make sure I understand what this sheet of projects is. The last paragraph on the cover sheet says the table below identifies projects in the major investments for economic growth category of this tip, which have a preliminary engineering phase scheduled in the current fiscal year, or which had a PE phase in a prior fiscal year. Does that mean that any project that is on this 3-page composite document is beyond the point of no return?
If it has PE funding programmed for it, it is beyond the point of no return, and that list should be a list of those projects.
It should be, but I
don't have it in front of me, and
the ones that jumped out at me.
Yes, sir.
Just happened to be on table 3.
Okay.
So. I'm sorry? Well, there are 4 or 5 of them. Probably more like 6 or 7, actually. The first one, which appears on page 101 of the 200-page document, is FPN number 258643-1. It's I-275 I-4 from North Hillsborough River to downtown interchange. Basically, I guess section 5 of the Tampa Bay Next project. It's on the list. It's in table 3, at least that's where I found it. And so my question is that project beyond the point of no return? And how would I know that from looking at the phase and dates that are listed in the following chart?
Yes, sir. If I may just click to that project on here, give me 1 second.
Mr. Chairman, would you repeat the number again so I can find it?
Sure, it's, I want to ask Stephen to read it to make sure I got it right.
258-643, space 1. From page 101, section 1 down.
I don't see anything that's like page 1. Just do that.
76. Oh.
Second.
I have. This is I-275 from north of Howard to north of the Hillsborough River.
From North Hillsborough River to downtown Fairfield.
Oh, excuse me.
Shows that there's funding for preliminary engineering design.
You haven't told, glad to get it to what read.
Okay, let's not have a conversation this year, maybe for an answer to the question.
Thank you. Oh. Yes, sir. There is $800,000 programmed this in 2025 for right of way. And previously, before 2025, there was $10,622,000 for P.
Okay, mostly what I'm trying to do is try to understand how to read this, because I'm not a DOT specialist, so.
Yes, sir. It's also on page 76 in table 3, which has those details. The second project on page 76 in table 3.
Okay, so without necessarily going through each single project that is on this 3-page document, is it the intent to tell us that everything on this grouping of projects is beyond the point of no return?
If this tip is approved, the projects on that list would be beyond the point of no return. Some of them already are because they have previously had funding programmed. But that is a inclusive list of existing projects that are beyond the point of no return in the funding program and new projects that are beyond the point of no return.
I'm sure for the new folks, that was clear as mud, and I do appreciate the effort. Okay, that said, who has questions for Wayne? Dana Lazarus.
Future, or maybe for now, on that list, could you indicate which projects are on the current, like if approved, that the current tip will be beyond the point of no return versus are already beyond the point of no return?
Sure, we can definitely make that distinction in the future.
Um,
Apologies for not doing this.
Thank you. Okay, so that being said, absolutely fantastic presentation in my opinion, for the most part, especially the first part. I would love that was sent to us. I'm sorry if it's in the packet. Or,
I've updated it since the packet was sent out.
okay, and then that like Platt Street, there was one project that needed to be updated in one of the first slides. To Platt to something.
Yes,
Anyways,
yes, that is McDill, and the current limits of the project are from Kennedy to Green Street, I believe, or to Main Street rather. The city is going to amend that project and fill out a form to amend it south to include Platt, so it matches up with another project is the reason that is all.
that was just, if you could make that update and then send that to us.
That update will need to take place with the city filling out an application, changing the limits of it. So it's not funded or it will be okay for them to do so, but I need to wait on that application from the city.
Okay. Will it need an amendment?
It is a supplemental, I actually just received this information today. It's a supplemental application to their existing application, basically making a small change. It's a 2-block change in limits, which is within allowable limits.
Okay. Do you have the?
Can I add? May I add, since that was my project in the city, the reason that because there's a southern project that reaches up to Platt, and so there was a two, and then the next, this project was funded, but like there's a two lot gaps, so we thought it would be like the logical termini to extend it, so that it's a continuous, all the way up to Columbus, actually.
Could you identify yourself for the record?
Dean, some terrace.
So most of my questions are technical, and then I have a couple. So anyways, so table 3 is, using state or, not using any state or federal funding, let me clarify. The key to the tip is that these projects are requesting or utilizing federal funding specifically, right? Not state. Necessarily.
Table 3 is all projects in the FDOT work program, which can often be a mix of state and federal funds.
I guess, well, and that was gonna be my follow-up question is table 3, it sounded like those are all projects that utilize local funds, but no federal funds. That's not the case.
The county's capital improvement programs, for example, or the jurisdiction's capital improvement programs, for example, may use all local funds, so they're included just for reference. It would be the federal funds that this body would largely be focused on.
Okay, I thought I understood the point of table 3, but now I'm not so sure. Because I thought table 3 was just to like inform us about those other projects that we can't really do anything about because they're using non-federal funds, but saying some do use federal.
Yes. So table 3 is all projects funded in the FDOT work program in the next 5 years.
Okay.
So that can include projects with many different funding sources. I brought that acronym of funding sources list just largely to demonstrate just how many funding sources there are, and there are a ton of them. But there are certainly local projects that are funded with grants, and then there are local projects that are funded with federal funds that they apply for as well. So it's a mix.
Is there overlap with table 3 and the other tables, since it's just showing what is in the FDOT work program?
Yes, there is some overlap because those table 1, for example, projects funded newly funded projects for construction. Those would also show up in table 3 because they're now in the work program. I'm assuming they are funded with a funding source that goes through FDOT.
Okay, what is a major job cluster and what is no major job cluster on table 2? There's in the, oh my goodness.
Yes.
The eval criteria. Curious.
That is a map that we have, the major job clusters, and I'm kind of doing this from memory without it in front of me. USF, downtown, West Shore are the 3 major ones in Hillsborough County. I can't recall if there are any others on that map, but those are the big ones.
So it refers to like a geographic area of like priority.
It does.
Okay.
Yes.
I love this funding code thing, but are these acronyms, the funding code? And is there somewhere we can see what each of the funding codes stands for? Like.
Yes, the project type, is basically, well.
Okay,
right.
so maybe I misunderstood.
No, you're right. I included some of them, but maybe I should have done a little more informative one on this. They have a lot of.
It's great though. Like, thank you for this. I feel like I asked for this.
Yes, I was, and I in the slide I was trying to do the if I can go back to that, the most common ones that we deal with, which this is in the tip. Certain these different types of funding that you see here are the most common ones that we would typically deal with.
Okay. In your presentation where you just listed like capacity projects, all the Vision Zero projects, I I was wondering if those are on a specific table or it's just anywhere in the tip, those are all.
I included those that had any funding anywhere in the tip. I was trying to be more inclusive rather than leave anything out.
I don't know if it would have been more work, but I was being eligible, wondering which table they were on, like which project.
They should all be all of those major construction projects unless I don't think any of those are with local funds, so they should all be found in table 3 in the FDOT work program.
Okay. Last question, the Red Wing project?
Yes.
Port Red Wing, thank you. What is that going to be? Is that related to, because last I heard about the Port Red Wing project, it was related to a ferry service, I thought.
I don't know the details on it. I know that the port is doing, the Port Authority that is doing a lot of work and adding a lot of operations in their South County berths. They're seeing a lot down there near Apollo Beach, a lot of activity from the new Arden Flour Mill, from other operators down there. And along US 41, I know they've talked about some access projects, but I'm not familiar with the specifics of that project.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions to my left? Dr. Davis?
Yeah, just a couple of questions. That was a great presentation, went through several $1 billion, a couple of them. But I know that 92 is going to be wide, like Del Rico and Dover. There used to be the widening of 301 from the Pasco County line down. That used to be in the old tip, it was taken out. Is that going to be in the long range transportation plan, or is that still gone forever?
It is not in the current long range transportation plan, I believe. I think it was removed a couple of years back. It was removed from the tip, you're correct. There was a smaller project along that segment of 301 to look at some high crash intersections. But the widening project, I do believe is in the, it may be in the non-SIS list.
Brian, to recall.
So it is being considered in the non-SIS capacity list. That is along with the SIS projects and the other major projects being considered for the 2050 LRTP.
And the other thing is that I asked staff to help us relate. This is part of the mobility element of the comprehensive plan. Is that the tip used to be part of the transportation element of the comprehensive plan, but they renamed it the mobility element.
Would that be for the Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I don't know how that connection, if it's by reference or otherwise.
We'll say we are working on your request. These agendas have been quite packed, and we have talked to the planning commission staff about presenting to you on the relationship between the mobility element of the comprehensive plan, all of the different ones, and the products that the MPO is responsible for. I'm just waiting for when there's an available time on a CC agenda.
And the last question is, this is not the tip that would have been presented had the Hall for Transportation sales tax not been declared unconstitutional.
There would be greater local funding and yes, sir, it is not this.
And all local funding is not included in this tip. In other words, the city of Tampa, Hillsborough County are doing projects that are not within this tip.
They are doing projects, yes, sir, with local funds. Yes, sir. That's it.
Any other questions from my left? Okay, right side of the room. Questions over here? Yeah.
I just have a great presentation. I just have clarification on one of your slides, or one or two of your slides. In section 2, you have like a list of projects like Twigs and Fowler. So I knew these projects were funded or under design before. So how are they new? Why are they on this?
They are not new, like the capacity projects in the 2 slides before. I just included all of the Vision Zero urban corridor improvements in the tip here for reference, so we can sort of see what was in each one of those. But that I understand that may be confusing. Sorry.
Thank you.
Any other questions over here to my right? No. Any hands up online?
Chris Bella has his hand raised.
Press Bella to recognize.
Thank you, sir. So I have just a couple questions. I wanted to find out when you're talking about the I-275, I-4 interchange project, and it's the same number that Rick was talking about, the 258-6431. Is that a capacity project? Is that economic growth? Because I keep on seeing that flip-flop. And last year, I believe it was a capacity project, and now it's economic growth. So I wanted to find out what is the TPO defining this project as?
Those are the same thing. Major investments for economic growth or largely capacity projects.
Okay, because I have an email from FHWA Luis Lopez, which I'm sure some of the staff knows who he is. And he's telling me that this was never a capacity project. It was never a capacity project in the SEIS. So if the TPO has been pushing this as a capacity project, then I think we got a big problem. Because the reason why we have to really figure out our verbiage here is the moment that becomes capacity, where a lot of the neighborhoods around the interchange are owed a lot of entitlements, from noise abatement to reduce pollution. So I think I'd like to really not, I think we just need to have this conversation on the side and determine what it is, because if FHWA is telling me otherwise, this shouldn't be a capacity project. So I don't know. I mean, would I talk to you about that, Wade, or do I need to talk to like Johnny about it?
I'm happy to elevate that to Johnny.
Okay.
Typically, our major investments, our major projects are in fact capacity projects.
Okay. Yeah, this is under an SEIS, so this particular, well, this was the old section 6 for TV Next, and this was under an SEIS, excuse me. So that's why it's kind of a hot topic, because it was never supposed to be a capacity project.
But if I'm not mistaken, the supplemental environmental impact assessment, the SEIS was related to the TV Next capacity project, right?
Well, your 2040 LRTP called it a capacity project, but FHWA, even though they're aware of all of this, they're not calling it, and they didn't approve it as a capacity project. I have the email like right in front of me, and I can share that with you directly. So
yes, sir.
We just need to get this resolved really fast, because otherwise we're owed a lot more entitlements. Because if this is a capacity project, we need to start looking at air quality and noise issues big time, like now. So my other question is, I'm talking about table 3. I noticed that the connectors there, like the connector that connects to I-4 and the crosstown. And I was wondering, and this might be beyond, our scope here, but those projects like the connector is supposed to get toll revenue, right? So why is this even a point of discussion on funding? I mean, aren't the tolling authorities, don't they have an autonomous ability to approve funding for operation and maintenance on projects like the connector?
The connector is an interesting one because it goes between I-4, an FDOT facility, and the Selman Expressway. It is tolled, so I see your point. I don't know how the maintenance agreement works on that. But I'm happy to look into the funding source for that. That's a curious one.
Yeah, because I know typically we have a lot of tax watchers coming to these meetings. And I mean, if I was a tax watcher, I would be concerned as to why we're approving toll revenue, or why we're approving funding in general for operation and maintenance when these roads are supposed to collect tolls. And this is really important because when FDOT comes into my neighborhood and they want to do a toll lane project, And if the tolls are not enough to cover the operation and maintenance just a mile away at the connector, then we need to have a deeper discussion as to accountability. Is tolls really paying off operation and maintenance on the interstate highway or the expressway? Because that's a perfect model there to look at. And then I have another question. You mentioned earlier in the presentation about recommendations, that you were seeking recommendations from other committees, and I'm assuming it was just a recommendation for the TIP to move forward. But were there any specific recommendations, meaning that that some of the committees wanted to strike out certain items from the TIP, or I don't know, wanted to elevate some of the items in the TIP?
Yes, the Livable Roadways Committee was disappointed. I believe their exact motion said that they were disappointed there was not more money for safety projects in the TIP. So I would take that as a recommendation for additional funding for safety projects, Vision Zero projects.
Okay. And just like any other committee, because it wasn't mentioned in your presentation, this committee, I mean, I can't do anything because I'm, teleconferencing, but they have the ability to elevate or strike out items in a TIP. Is that correct? As a recommendation?
As a recommendation to the board, yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. All right, that's all I got. Thank you.
Any other questions from our online members?
I think we'll let our hands raised.
Okay, any other questions from the room? Dana Lazarus.
I would love clarification, a little more clarification about table 3. Can we have the ability to remove or move projects on table 3? Are they, I understand that they are the projects that are funded in the FDOT work program. Is that the only thing that makes them unique and is why they're on this table, like unique from tables 1 and 3 or 2?
Well, table 2 is unfunded priorities. Table 1 is those priorities on table 2 that are getting new funding. And table 3 is the entire FDOT work program.
Okay. But tables 1 and 2, what do they have to do with FDOT's work program?
Well, many of the projects that you see on table 1 are going into table 3, into the work program, because they have received new funding. That's what table 1 is, projects that have received new funding and are entering the work program.
Okay, wait, so I think, what Wade is saying is projects on table 1 are likely coming from table 2 into table 1. And at the same time that they go in table 1, they're going in table 3, because the projects in table 1 are reflected in table 3, but they're the new ones. Is that correct? Wade?
That's what I'm trying to say. Thank you, Sarah.
I don't know if that.
It helps a little.
Well, for what it's worth, I've been on this committee since 2017. I think it's the first time that that's ever been explained that way in my presence. Table 3,
2016 here.
table 3 has been explained in a myriad of ways, but not the way it's being explained here tonight, at least not in my presence. That's having a hard time getting my arms around that. I thought I understood what it was. Go ahead, Dave, I'm sorry.
So then to my first question, can projects be removed or moved around on table 3?
Those projects that have not passed the point of no return, this committee may certainly make a recommendation to the TPO board to remove those projects.
Okay, and that's kind of hard because looking at table 3, there I guess other than seeing preliminary engineering design funding, maybe in the less than 2025.
That would mean it's already had it and would be beyond the point of no return.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
That's one other way to go through table 3 is to look at the PE number and see if there's anything before 2025. That would also tell you that.
Anyone else here to the left? second round. To the right, yeah,
I just want to clarify to ask if there is, so that's table 3. Is there like a more detailed table 3 with the funding types broken up
In the,
and the real tip, right?
yes, that would be the 300 and something page document that, the chair was referring to, which is, linked in the, agenda. Yes, sir.
So table 3 is basically any project that is touched by DOT, so that any state funds or federal funds, that it will go on table 3.
I'm trying to think if there would be some reason that a local government might receive federal funds that wouldn't put it in the FDOT work program. I can't say that there's not a chance that might not happen, but typically they will get a federal project identification number, and anything with that would end up in table.
So it's all projects that are touched by DOT somehow.
Yes.
Thank you.
yeah, I see no more hands, folks. I do see a hand in the room. Mr. Roberts,
Mr. Chairman, can I offer a suggestion going forward,
please.
for Wayne and for other staff? Over the recent years, you will recall that this committee has discussed many projects of these on the tip. Only to find out after considerable discussion that they were projects that were already past the point of no return, which goes to your question earlier. I would like to ask if there is some way next year, when this is presented to this committee, maybe you can somehow identify those projects which are either past the point or not past the point, so that we'll know which projects are worthy of discussion for possible removal.
I could certainly create a list of each out of the work program, for the committee's consideration.
Okay, I think it would be helpful to the committee, and I appreciate you letting me make the suggestion.
No, absolutely. And for what it's worth, I think that suggestion has been made either as you just made it, very gentlemanly way, or by way of motion. At least the last 2 years, and for some reason, it's not been picked up. So, I mean, it's pure happenstance that I even found this thing about the point of no return on page 100. I was a little bleary-eyed by the time I got there. So, my suggestion would be that such a, identification of projects beyond the point of no return would be appropriately used this year before this list of projects goes to the TPO board. I know they've had this discussion there too. Last year they did. Remember Lynn Hurtak getting all foamed up about this. So if it's possible, or at least table 2, not all 3 tables, to identify those projects that are beyond the point of no return, according to staff. That would be my suggestion. Stephen?
Can I just clarify? There would be no projects on table 2 that are beyond the point of no return.
Every project on table 2 is trying to get funding.
Okay, so that's the bulk of where we typically are debating. So we're talking about projects on table 1 and table 3. All the projects on table 1 are on table 3. And then the full list of table 3, where do we get that? Is that printed out here?
This is basically a summary list. Each of these projects that get a little line in this table, they get a whole page in that larger document that is linked in your agenda. And that has much more details typically about the funding for each of those.
Okay, and that larger document is Transportation Improvement Program 25 to 29.
Yes, it should be about a 400-page document.
Jim Davis?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I mean, I think everybody here shared the same sentiment as the chair. This is ridiculous. I mean, we don't know what's beyond the point of no return and why it's beyond the point of no return, and those that are not beyond the point of no return. How do you make a judgment? And we just talked for a half hour about projects that can be on part of no return. Are we able to make a motion in this action item to accompany it to go to the board to request them I have a motion to have staff do that in the future.
Chair will be happy to entertain any motion.
And I'm sorry for not providing that
Oh, that's
for you
fine.
tonight.
It's been all the time.
Okay, any other questions in the room? Yeah, anyone online? Hands up? Okay, wait, I just have a couple of questions. They're more definitional than anything else. Table one, at least the version of table one that I was looking at, which I think you included as an attachment to the agenda material. Page 7 refers to a series of projects as involving integrated corridor management. The project I'm looking at that I made notes on was Florida Avenue and Taft Street between Kennedy and Bears. Could you define integrated corridor management?
Yes, that's basically just linking up all the signals so that they work with each other.
Okay. And on page 9 of that same document, there's reference to the Howard Franklin Bridge and 4 express lanes. We've had this conversation before, either you and I or myself and the DOT representative. Is there, as of this moment, a definition from DOT as to how those express lanes will be managed?
I do not know the answer to that.
All right. The DOT representative that is not hiding certainly, but just there's not, he's sitting behind you. Do they know? Does he know?
He does not.
Okay. On table 2 at page 25, there's reference to I-275 from north of Hillsborough to Bears. And the project description is noise walls and multimodal safety enhancements. There's been debate over the years as to whether or not there would be additional general use lanes added north of Hillsborough to Bears. Is there anything in the project documents that refers to additional general use lanes north of Hillsborough? Is there anything other than noise walls involved there?
No, and not as far as I know. And that is a project under consideration for the 2050 LRTP, widening from Hillsborough to Bears. It is not currently in the LRTP, so it would need to be adopted in there first. It's typically the way that happens.
Okay, and from a timeline perspective, what is the timeline of the LRTP?
The LRTP adoption is scheduled for September, and then there's a 30-day period. So October would be the final adoption, I believe.
I do want to make just a quick comment related to something that Chris Vela said. I'm trying to figure out how to manage the issue. There is absolutely no question in my mind that the downtown interchange project, the DTI, Section 6, Tampa Bay Next, or whichever one of the various names you want to pull out of the top of the hat, it has never been defined as a capacity project. The Department of Transportation has been surgical about that. And to the extent that it's being defined as a capacity project now, I do see that as a problem. So I will, at the appropriate time, I'm going to pass the gavel and make a motion requesting clarification on that from the staff and from the TPO and DOT as to what exactly this project is once and for all, so we know what regulations apply to it. Edward Driscoll.
Yeah, my memory gets foggy, but my recollection is that it was a safety project.
Yes, it was always pushed as a safety project. Even though they were adding lanes.
Because of crashes in the southbound to west lane.
Yes.
With all that emergency. That's
All that.
That's my recollection. But I'm not gonna swear by that.
Well, your recollection is consistent with mine. Stephen?
Just gonna see if Brian Hunter from FDOT wanted to comment. I see the way they're talking. So I want to invite you up, Brian, if you have any thoughts you want to weigh in.
Yeah, so the downtown interchange project is a safety and operational improvement project. It's not considered a capacity project. I think when Chris was talking, he was referencing the FPN from Hillsborough River to downtown, not the downtown. There's a little, both the FPN for the project to the west of there was referenced, as well as the downtown interchange project. So I would just need to see which one is actually in the table to be able to further answer that question. So.
Any other questions? Any other comments in the room? Mr. Hopkins?
One last clarifying point. So table 3, are all projects on table 3, did they flow through? There were ones on table 2 and then moved up to table 1, or is there a large chunk of them that are small miscellaneous?
There's a large separate block of projects that are going directly through FDOT and never go through that table 2 to table 1 process.
And why, what's the reason for those kind of projects?
So there are different funding sources. FDOT is doing many projects on their own roadways, resurfacing projects, other things that don't have, that are either conducted completely with state funding and don't need to get oversight, even though it is included for reference in the TIP approval. Many of the projects you'll see in table 3 are signalization, resurfacing, landscaping projects that are not projects being requested through a grant program from one of the jurisdictions that we serve, like the Hart bus replacements or a safety project on McDill Avenue or something like that, which is not on the FDOT. It's not a FDOT road, but it is getting FDOT funding. If that
makes perfect sense, yeah.
The local jurisdictions can make a priority of a state project. Plant City, in their list this year, included US 92 from Maryland to the Polk County line. Just to give you an example, they instead of just adding, their local road priorities, they are supporting that FDOT project as well. So there is a bit of overlap as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chair, not to draw on it, but when are you going to start accepting motions to priority lists?
As soon as discussion is completed, I'm more than happy to entertain motions. Wait, I just think that this is a little picadillo of mine. Columbus is a drive. It's not an avenue.
Apologies.
And for some reason, it's not just you. For some reason, someone out in the ether has decided to rename Columbus Drive to Columbus Avenue. Bothers the hell out of me for some reason.
I will have that corrected before the board hearing. Thank you, sir.
Let's keep bringing, let's start calling Bayshore Drive. Even. Okay, well, I guess that concludes our questions. Could I have the ask slide back up? All right, the recommended action is to approve the TIP update for fiscal year 24-25 to 28-29, and to approve the TIP priority list, table 2. Is there an enabling motion? I see a hand up. Yeah. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
All right, you move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
And Stephen Hollenkamp seconds. Is there a discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yes, Mr. Citro.
there are 3 items that I feel need to be moved up in the priority list. All of the items on this list are needed. And all these items will help everybody in Hillsborough County. However, City of Canton is near and dear to my heart. There are 2 under 64. They are the airport downtown premium transit, the Tico streetcar extension, and under 74, is the Bright Lines multimodal connection. These are things that need to be thought of now, because if they're not, we might have to wait until 2030, in which my thinking that will be far too late. I would like to make a motion, these are moved up to at least top 25.
Okay, so the chair will recognize that as a motion to amend.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Second,
Is there a second?
all three.
Is there discussion on the motion to amend the original motion? Stephen Pelican.
Yeah, so these are, you said which ones?
I said 264, which is the airport downtown premium transit, the Tico streetcar extension, and under item number 73, the Brightline multimodal connection.
Okay, so these are all under real choices. Are we allowed to move them up beyond the real choices section? Which would make the highest real choices item is number 63.
The currently, the order of the funding buckets is also a prioritized motion of the board.
Okay, that means we could
You
vote to move them.
to the top of their category.
Okay.
Just at the top of the category,
Yes, sir.
not higher on the priority list.
Not to a different category. The board has currently ordered those as priorities as well, which, so like resurfacing projects and maintenance is the top priority within the LRCP.
Then in that case, Mr. Chair, I'd like to change my motion to put them at the top, the priority of their list.
Okay, let me catch up with you here, Mr. Chief.
Thank you, Pat.
There are 3 line items, if I understand correctly, that you want to advance.
Yes, sir. It makes some
Please, one.
sometimes difficult because their priority numbers are about the same. Under priority 64, there are several on priority 64. The airport to downtown premium transit. Also under 64 is the streetcar extension. Under the priority projects. And one of the items, number 73, is the Brightline multimodal connection.
You said that was 73?
That is under 73, yes.
One of the 7.
One of
One of
the
the
73.
73.
And those are all under the Hillsborough EPO list of priority projects.
You would like to make those 3 basically number 63.
Basically, yes. That's what I was thinking too, Mr. Alden.
Well, I wish I could move them up higher. Because again, by 2030, it's going to be far too late for these projects to even be thought about beginning.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time navigating these
That's
charts.
Mr. Chair, with all the paperwork in front of us, it's all hard for us to get through the days.
Okay.
So again,
The amended motion that is before us, let me try to restate it,
go right ahead.
is to advance the priority of 3 items on table 2. One item is now ranked 64. It's reference ID E3. And that's the airport to downtown premium transit.
Yes, sir.
E4. The next is the Tico streetcar extension, which is E5 by reference. And the third is, oh, sorry. And the third is reference ID E20, which is the Brightline Station multimodal connections.
Yes, sir.
And the motion is to advance those to a rank of 63.
Yes, because I cannot get them any higher as we have been informed.
And then moving the current 63 down to 64.
Sure. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Understood.
so that's the amended motion.
Essentially E1, 2, and 3, and then the current E1 would become E4.
Yes.
Okay, all right, that's the amended motion. And was there a second? Mr. Roberts offered the second. Is there any discussion on the amended motion?
What's the cost Transit.
Currently in the tip, there's 200, I believe it's $290 million for the streetcar extension, but we don't have the local match, unfortunately. So it's just one of those things without a local match.
That's the streetcar. What about the airport to downtown premium transit?
Um,
I've heard like that, that's $400 or $500 million.
that's probably in the ballpark.
So you're talking about $700 million. Without any chance of being funded, because as the 2050 long-range transportation plan funding scenario that we'll talk about in a little while, you're $30 billion short. Yeah, well, I'm not finished. And then Brightline, when is Brightline due to arrive in 3 years?
I haven't received an update on that.
That's an estimate, right? They've been arriving for a long time. And what's the cost of that?
Well, there will be some costs to the locals, but largely that's a privately funded enterprise.
And that's what I'm saying, we don't even know the cost of moving it up a priority, and that way you're putting things that we could be paying for down in priority. And just doesn't seem fair that we're gonna hold up all the other priorities. We don't have the money to pay for the top ones, so we're just got to see if there are problems.
Any other comments on the amendment? Mr. Citro?
If I may, Mr. Chair, the local funding for the streetcar will more than likely, as I propose, come out of CRA funds, because the streetcar is going to run through 5 different CRAs, Ybor, downtown, Channelside, Tampa Heights, and Central District. I'm not saying it's guaranteed. I know I'm getting looked at. I'm not saying it's guaranteed. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I know at the last meeting, or before that, there was a request for an update on the streetcar. We have that tentatively scheduled for your November meeting.
Any other comments on the amended motion? Ed?
Yeah, premium transit's kind of a loosey-goosey term. I mean, I think some people automatically think that means rail. It could very likely mean BRT.
BRT.
Don't even know what we're moving up there.
But I mean, I think premium transit's good. I just think we need to, when we get to that, there needs to be a cost effectiveness analysis of what's the best.
Bill Roberts, do you have a hand up? No? Any other comments in the room? Comments online? On the amended motion.
Made a comment in the chat that CRAs could not afford as of 2022.
Right? There are no more comments. We're prepared to vote on the amendment. Gail, could you call the roll, please?
Yes, Rick Fernandez,
Yes.
Stephen Hollenkamp,
No.
Dana Lazarus,
Yes.
Jim Davison,
No,
Carolyn Brown,
Yes.
Joseph Citro,
Yes.
Aya Yassin.
No.
I'm sorry, can you speak up?
No.
Thank you. Bill Roberts,
Yes.
Don Skelton,
Yes.
Ed Majewski,
Yes.
Ilya Lashnov,
Yes.
Ivia Adams,
Yes.
Stephen Jones.
No.
The amendment to the motion passes 9-4.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. There any other amendments to be offered? Dana Lazarus?
Okay. I'm excited because I feel like that helped me understand this process a little better. Because there's now 2 projects that I'm interested in possibly moving up, and I would like to make a case for that. Okay, I have to find them. Let's see.
You have to find it in Sarah.
Okay,
There you go.
So yeah, still on table two, I did real choices. It's actually, I believe the last two, they're ranked at 90, filling sidewalk gaps at various segments of state roads and citywide bike network. And I have a question about this. Why are they just generalized, like filling sidewalk gaps, filling in the bike network?
So the citywide bike network was a request this year from the city of Tampa in their letter of priority to us. So it just came in. There's not much information on that. I don't know what their plan is for that. But that's what I know about that one. The filling sidewalk gaps, those were the carbon reduction CARU funds that we received, that we have worked with the state to, well, the state had part of a pot and we had part of a pot to help them program. And we agreed to program those to filling sidewalk gaps on the high entry network on state roads. So some of that will be funded, but that is going to be that is going to potentially be a funding source over several years, which is why it stays on table two. But there is some funding allocated towards that.
Dana, do you have an amendment to offer?
I'm just gonna skip that one because we don't have enough information about it. There is one that I would like to move up for sure. That is ranked 96 of major projects, the CART CSX study. I would like, it's only 3.5 million. I would like to move this up because it's been asked for many years. It has been voted on by the TPO board during hearings to be prioritized. It looks like HART is sponsoring it. That's really cool. So my motion is to move the HART CSX study up to the top for major projects. 91.
To 91, got it.
Wait, is that maybe there? Yes. Okay.
It's 96 now.
Yes, thank you.
Right, so your amendment, your amended motion is to move the HART CSX study, which is currently ranked 96, and move it up to 91.
Yes, thank you.
Right. That's the motion, as best I'm able to regurgitate it. Is there a second?
I will second.
Mr. Citro seconds it. Elia, you have comment or question?
I have a question. I'm just not familiar with the CSX study.
Yes, that would basically be a study of the CSX tracks within the county. There is the one that goes down the South Tampa Peninsula. There is a downtown to USF corridor. There's a corridor that goes along Bush Boulevard north of the airport over into Pinellas County and then down to St. Petersburg. And several different forms of that study, including the other line that I didn't mention, which is basically runs parallel to US 41. Several of those projects have been requested. We tested one in the LRTP major projects. A couple are part of the city's RIA grant, which they received and are getting started on. And that's what I know about it. It has not moved forward. CSX has said they're open to negotiation on some of those lines, but not all. And T. Barta, I think, was the last person to do any kind of a study looking at those tracks. So that's what I know about.
Share the track or possibly.
Well, if it's anything like Sunrail in Orlando, I believe it would be to purchase the tracks and then operate rail services on them while still maintaining the allowance for freight, I believe is the idea.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, Jim Davidson?
Yeah, can you tell me the difference between what this study would accomplish and what the study that was done in 2010 long range, or I guess it would be the 2035 long range transportation plan, which all those corridors were studied, every one of them. So is this just an update for $3.5 million?
I am not familiar with what, the city could propose or the other one that you're, mentioning.
Dana?
If I can make a response to that, there's been several studies that have like looked at different areas. There was a CRA study that looked at just from like East Tampa to USF. I don't know, oh, sorry.
That's not true. They will follow every one of those corridors had a study. Go back to the 2035 long range transportation plans. Every single one of those corridors was studied, had a ridership put on it, had costs put on it, and everything else.
That just part of the LRTP,
That was the LRT.
or was there a study?
Study, they had that study to get into here. They had to have the ridership studies, the cost of that.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm saying it wasn't a separate study though. It was part of the LRTP.
No, it was a separate study.
Okay, we don't need to have a debate here about this.
I just don't know. I do not know.
All right.
But for me, the reason I'm asking to move these up is because it's a priority to the people and it's of value. I don't know what it includes in terms of what exactly, maybe they're setting something new, like even using the right of way in proximity, or I don't, who knows, but it's been asked for.
All right, does anyone else have comment on the amendment currently pending? And Davis?
And one of the things, these quarters go all the way back to the 2015, when they first chose premium transit as the method in the long range transportation. That's how far they've been. And they had separate studies. Things that we studied several and multiple times.
Anyone else in the room? Ed?
It seems to me that the majority of funding for this is going to be FTA funding. So if it moves up, it's not just displacing other stuff that's ahead of it. It's a matter of this be the highest use of FTA funding, and it's.
Hey, Chris Vella, you have your hand up? Have your hand up?
Yes,
Right,
I do,
you
sir.
recognize.
Correct. Thank you. I just want to add to this discussion that I would strongly consider to elevate any pedestrian projects because tomorrow City Hall will be voting, and my feeling is to accept a $20 million for the Safer Streets program by FHWA. So tomorrow they're going to be getting $20 million. So any priorities I can write on that as my own recommendation, since I can't vote anything, I would push those up. Thank you.
Did that comment have anything to do with the amendment? Did I miss something? You're talking about something else now, right?
I would propose another amendment to elevate pedestrian projects in the tip, is what I'm
Okay.
saying.
Back to the amendment that's on the table. Any other comments on Dana's amendment?
If I could, just to Ms. Lazarus' point, the last studies are 10 years old. A lot has changed in the city. A lot more people have moved into the city, and public mass transportation is needed desperately. If there's a feasible way to use those tracks for any type of mass public transportation, this board should be made aware of it. And I think that money would be well spent to tell us one way or the other, yes or no, whether or not it's going to be useful or not.
That's an update.
We exhausted comments in the room?
Thank you.
Have we exhausted comments online? Hands? Chat box? Nothing. I see no. Okay. So again, the amendment being offered by Ms. Lazarus is to advance the HART CSX study, reference ID F6, advance it from its current rank of 96 to the rank of 91 under the major projects section of table 2. Gail, you call the roll, please.
Rick Fernandez,
Yep.
Stephen Hollenkamp,
No.
Dana Lazarus,
Yes.
Jim Davison,
No.
Carolyn Brown,
Yes.
Joseph Citro,
Yes.
Aya Yassin,
No.
Bill Roberts.
Yes.
Don Skelton,
No.
Ed Majewski,
Yes.
Ilya Lashnev,
No.
Vivian Adams,
Yes.
Stephen Jones.
Yes.
The amendment passes 8-5.
Are there any other amendment motions to be offered? Not calling you.
Just a small thing, not an amended motion, but Dana was talking about the 290s, and they're both listed as P30. So maybe the second one should be 31.
Thank you. It should be, and we will check that number in.
That's it.
Address your concern. I'm not sure what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the same thing for F1 and F2. They're like 91 and 91, F1 and F2. Both of them, duplicate numbers.
The tie rank is actually correct. We have several of those.
91, 91.
Right.
So should the
They're tied.
the reference ID should be the same as well?
I have.
Oh, I'm just thinking about other ones as well. There's similar reference IDs.
No, I will check. The reference IDs should not be
Because there's
repeated.
multiple ones.
And we'll go through.
Are there any other amendments to be on? Mr. Davis?
The, kind of a point of no return, then a motion should be made to accompany this, or should that be a separate motion after you?
Make the motion now if you'd like.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to, request staff and the board to make a decision on whether future tips should be accompanied by instructions of projects that are beyond the point of no return and why they are beyond the point of no return, to make the discussion more easily and facilitate more rapidly.
You know what, in retrospect, we do have an amendment, we have a motion already on the table. Let me ask you to table that and come back to you. Your motion, I think, deserves attention first. We're back to the original motion now, which was to accept the recommended action now as amended. Is there any other discussion on the original motion? See none in the room. Anyone online? No hands up. Okay. Gail, would you call the roll, please?
Kirk Fernandez,
Yes.
Stephen Hollenkamp,
Yes.
Dana Lazarus,
Yes.
Jim Davison,
Yes.
Carolyn Brown,
Yes.
Joseph Cedro,
Yes.
Aya Yassin,
Yes.
Bill Roberts,
Yes.
Don Skelton,
Yes.
Ed Majewski,
Yes.
Ilya Lashnev,
Yes.
Evia Adams.
Yes.
I'm gonna get that one. I tell you what, I'm gonna get that one. Stephen Jones.
Yes.
The amended motion for the approval of the tip passes unanimously 13-0.
Thank you. Now come back to you, Chair Davis. I'm sorry to have you
No, that's why I asked for your instructions.
go, but obviously they weren't very well done. So do it again.
Anyway, I'd like to make a motion that, future tips presented to all of the committees for the TPO and the TPO board itself be accompanied in letter, some kind of mechanism to identify projects that are already beyond the point of no return and why they are beyond the point of no return. And that will settle a whole lot of questions and facilitate and speed up the discussion as to get these things moving along.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ilya seconds. Or any comment, question, discussion?
May I make an amendment, please?
What might your amendment be? Sure.
I would like to add that we like the CPO staff to hold, maybe a question and answer session ahead of time so that they can discuss how the process works and explain more on the table and like answer all our questions ahead of time. If that is possible, it could be like a virtual workshop or something like that to explain the process.
All right, well. Our colleague has offered an amendment. Is there a second to the amendment? I see no seconds to the amendment. Fails for lack of a second.
Yeah, the reason I didn't second it, because there are many other ways to have a workshop. I would just like to have it presented so that we can speed the discussion here when we arrive. In other words, they can do this whole thing over the internet on video, and we could watch it home, get the whole presentation, and then when we come here to meet, they could just answer our questions and save a whole lot of time on the presentation.
All right, we have a motion from Mr. Davison. I think we had a second from Ilya. Okay. Any other discussions on the motion? Dana?
So can we also add, well, because like to me, it would just be like highlighting even just on the table, like highlighting the tables that are past the point of no return. And I wanted to add to do that for the TPO board hearing next week.
I'm happy to do that in the presentation for next week, absolutely. To get them a list of current point of no return and new point of no return.
Ed, is that a handout?
No, I'm just reaching for the air.
Are there any hands up online?
I see none.
Okay, Mr. Roberts?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would just like to add that with all due respect to Mr. Davison, staff has already agreed to do this. They've already agreed to do it in time with this tip hearing coming up. I have no objection to the motion, but I want to go on record that I'm going to vote against it simply because they've already agreed to do it.
And can I respond to that?
Sure.
They've agreed to do it in the past too, as the chairman had said, and that's why I'm making the motion now.
Understood.
Yes, sir. Understood.
Okay, Gail, would you call the roll, please?
Rick Fernandez,
Yeah, yes?
Stephen Hollenkamp,
Yes.
Dana Lazarus,
Yes.
Jim Davison,
Yes.
Carolyn Brown,
Yes.
Joseph Citro,
Yes.
Aya Yassin, Bill Roberts,
No,
Don Skelton,
Yes.
Ed Majewski,
Yes.
Ilya Lashnov,
Yes.
Abaya Adams,
Yes.
Stephen Jones.
Yes.
The motion passes 12-1.
Okay.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Great job.
You know, wait, before you disappear, is Press Valley still on the line?
Yes.
Yes, I'm here, Chair.
Chris, I have I don't even know what to call this. Point of order, I guess. You made a suggestion or voiced a concern earlier about the downtown interchange section 6 and whether it's a capacity project or something else. Unfortunately, you're not in the room to make a motion. If you were in the room to make a motion, what would that motion be?
I guess the motion for, is this just relating to that? This is relating to that particular issue, right? So my motion is for the TPO to define, let me restart that. My motion would be for the TPO to clearly define if the downtown interchange project, section 6, is a capacity project or an operation improvement project for safety issues. And that is my request. That would be my motion to define that.
I'm gonna pass the gavel with Huntcamp. And I would like now to make a motion incorporating by reference what Mr. Vella just dictated for us on the record. Is there a second?
I second it.
We have a second. I'm sorry. Yeah, screw up your name again.
It's a,
Ms. Adams, Evia? Evia, okay. Have a second from Evia Adams? I'm sorry, the chair.
It's okay. We have a second. Do we have any discussion? Jim?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, do you want FDOT to define it or the TPO board to define it?
I'd like the TPO board to bring this to ground once and for all. I don't think they're going to be the ones to answer the question. I think FDOT is going to have to finally define what they're doing out there.
Okay,
Yeah, I think that DOT said that this was in the work program. It's a safety and operational improvement thing. So it seems to me that maybe the only issue is that the staff has put it into the wrong barrel. That it maybe should really be in the Vision Zero barrel.
And I may have misspoken. I do want to, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I do want to add that the cost of the project is really what puts it into the major projects category. They are not all capacity project. It is projects over $5 million, many of which are capacity projects.
okay, thank you, Wade. Chris Bella.
Yes, I just wanted to add, I am putting as a record in the chat as for this meeting that in 2023, last year's TIP, the TPO did refer this under the LRTP, all three of the FPN numbers that relate to the downtown interchange as capacity projects. Earlier in this meeting, Wade inferred that the downtown interchange in his presentation is an interstate capacity project. I also sent an excerpt from my email, my conversation with the FHWA, saying that this project is, the interchange itself, segment 6, is not a capacity project. So my concerns is, again, I just want clarification what the TPO is defining this project as, and then we'll determine the next steps. Because right now it seems like we got a lot of different definitions going on, and it's not clear what the board is voting on and what we're supposed to support or not support.
Chris, you said you sent, where did you send that?
I included in the chat, but I did include it to Wade and also to Johnny. And then I guess if that can be shared among all you guys, I don't mind that. I don't mind if my little excerpt of the email and the images are shared with you all. I'm just trying to offer some evidence here that at least since last year, this has been assumed as a capacity project under the TPO.
Okay, thank you, Chris. I don't see it in the chat, by the way. Maybe it just hasn't come in. But do we have any other comments or discussion points? Okay, so we have an amendment. We have it seconded. Gail, could you please take a roll call?
I don't think it's a amendment.
A motion. Okay.
Yes, okay. All right, so this is the motion for the clarification on the downtown interchange project. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Rick Fernandez,
Yes.
Stephen Hollenkamp,
Yes.
Dana Lazarus,
yes.
Jim Davison,
Yes.
Carolyn Brown,
Yes.
Joseph Citro,
Yes.
Aya Yassin,
No.
Bill Roberts.
Yes.
Don Skelton,
Yes.
Ed Mierzejewski,
Yes.
Ilya Lashnov,
Yes.
Ivia Adams,
Yes.
Stephen Jones.
Yes.
The motion passes 12-1.
Okay, and I'll hand the gavel back to our chair.
Thanks so much. All right. Okay, I guess that concludes the tip update section of our program, and we now are at item B under the action items, Vision Zero Street Study. Just a comment, if I might, before we wade into this. As I understand it, some or all of these action items have to be dealt with because of timeline constraints. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. All of the action items that are on your agenda today are on here because of time requirements that they must be applicable by the end of June this year.
Okay, so that's all three of the remaining action items we can't defer them.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All of which is to say, we're scheduled until 9 o'clock and we need a quorum, so we're doing good, but you can stick around. Okay, Lisa Silva, are you around?
I am. Lisa Silva,
Hey.
Hillsborough TPO staff. I have 8 minutes and I can do it, so hang on. I am your Vision Zero coordinator, and I get to work on many of the Vision Zero action plan implementation projects. This is the final recommendations of the Vision Zero Street Study for Waters and Sly Avenues. They are both avenues in the high injury network of the City of Tampa's Vision Zero action plan, and they both have the added layer of complexity of being county owned and maintained. So we took a look at this 1.5 mile and 2 mile segments of the high injury network. They're parallel and in the same vicinity, so that helped us tackle them. Waters Avenue has transit on it. Sly Avenue has like the zoo as a big attractor. We considered the Hillsborough County's Complete Street Guide, etc. And let's see. Of course, we start every project looking at the crash types and the crash modes and the history. They are sprinkled throughout the corridor. You can see that here and here. We also cruise through the corridor and get to know it. It's got very narrow sidewalks, very loud and noisy, very high speeds, not a lot of crossings, zero cycling facilities, so and pretty high trips per day, so a lot of challenges out there. So also, because it is county owned and maintained, we took a look at the staging, and they follow a tier approach, not dissimilar to the City of Tampa's like quick build projects, are kind of like the tier 1. You know, when you have a lot of money, you can redo a corridor. It's more of like your tier 3. As with all projects, we do public feedback, and so we hosted 2 open houses at the Salvation Army right there on Sly Avenue. You see a lot of the little notes from our charrette there. We had a parallel online survey going over the course of the project to seek feedback on them. And then we looked at and evaluated several alternatives, ranking from like no build, do nothing, all the way to a roadway widening, to cover the range of options. The community input was translated into 5 different categories. No option gets a perfect score because there are trade-offs. Some score well on being low cost, but then are poor for businesses and inclusivity. So you can see the ones that did well. The 2 and 3 lane options were the green options. But then we also take a look at the second evaluation, our key differentiators that are important attributes related to safety, placemaking, the complete streets, economic development, and the ability to quickly implement and preclude reconstruction. So these were evaluated, and this one also scored very well on the 3 lane option. And it would compared well with the community-based input. So that is the highest recommendation of the alternatives. Here you can see it, and it's more of like a tier 3 version. Here it is in like the tier 1 with just repainting and some bollards. So it could be staged and low cost. And it's safer for improved visibility, less rear ending, less of the weaving, definitely easier to cross when you don't have to cross all, 4 lanes in 2 different directions and look for a gap. So a lot of safety options here. We're also recommending speed reduction, speed being a significant contributor to the safety concerns out there. 45 miles per hour on this thoroughfare, not ideal. Some other things that we looked at to help like diminish, and this being, such a great thoroughfare and cut through traffic would be to like remove the truck route designation, look at that, but perhaps a different functional classification, and then this would attract less traffic volume through the community. Another big idea that surfaced, but it's just a big idea, it was not studied thoroughly for this scope of project, is our consultant identified that a significant contributor to the safety concerns could be mitigated by the consideration of the ramp removal or closure at Sly and Bird. This would require a different a lot more traffic analysis, definitely significant public feedback. It's not a city-owned and county-maintained roadway any longer. It's a DOT facility, so it would take coordination with that partner. But we did want to share that that was a very interesting thing that floated as a result of that. So again, to be clear, we're just asking for acceptance of the study of the different recommendations that we're going to provide at a planning level to our city and county partners in the project. We did have 2 different departments of Hillsborough County participate, as well as the mobility department of the city. So that is the recommendation of the study.
Okay, is there an ask slide somewhere in your?
It's with all studies, we're just asking that this committee recommend that the TPO accept the study. But I do not have that spelled out on a slide separately. Sorry.
All right. So, thank you for the presentation, and obviously you've generated some interest in the role. Any questions to my left? Mr. Davis.
Yes, so point of the study means you've just done the public outreach and have given them different scenarios to select from. That's where we're at with this, because you haven't done any traffic analysis. You haven't picked a alternative, a favorite alternative. You haven't done any of those things. So we're just talking about the public outreach and the different scenarios that you've come up with so far. Correct?
No, we had a professional engineering team that reviewed all 6 alternatives, ranked them with technical analysis and community feedback. Both of those were consistent with the 3-lane alternative, and that is the recommendation of the report, is that be pursued. There was some traffic analysis done, not like super detailed. As with all of our planning studies, they are not construction documents. They would then need to be developed in construction and design and additional cost estimating, et cetera. That is all in the report. So sorry if that was not clear. We've done technical analysis on the complete streets recommendations and community feedback on the complete streets recommendations. What has not occurred is a detailed analysis or traffic studies on the big idea of the ramp removal. So just sharing the idea of the ramp removal could be a future study, but it's not what's being recommended for your consideration of acceptance tonight.
But you haven't selected a speed limit, you haven't, so it's the 3 lanes, it's what you're going with. And we haven't seen the traffic study that you accompanied that with. And so we have no idea what's traffic study said. And we haven't told us what speed limit is.
The proposal is to reduce the speed limits from 45 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour. These are concepts, planning level concepts with, you know, it's in the report. I don't know what else to say.
Any other questions from the left side of the room? Here. Right side, Ed?
Yeah, I got a series of, maybe these are questions and maybe they're comments, but I was not impressed by the study at all. As Jim pointed out, it's got all these criteria, except one that it doesn't have is the transportation impacts. And they carry 28,000 vehicles a day. One of the proposals is to prohibit right turn lanes, which I'm concerned could increase the rear end collision. It talks about having a two-way left turn lane in the middle lanes. And I'm well acquainted with the fact that those have been nicknamed suicide lanes. There's a thought, and I understand this is in the distance, to remove the Sly interchange, but yet in the community impact, one of the things people really liked was the access to the interstate off the Sly. And then, you know, I think the idea that you're going to like force people to go someplace else, that will reduce traffic on these roads because there's going to be totally inadequate capacity. But what it's going to do is actually force a lot of that traffic into the residential neighborhoods. And in fact, if you look at Waters is largely strip commercial development. So you're going to do all these nice things there and force half of the traffic to cut through people's neighborhoods. So I just was not impressed by the analysis.
Other comments? Dave?
I just would like to clarify, what is the next step for this project, for this study? Is this project already on the high entry network? And you are gonna fund it using like a pot of money that saves trees for all or something that will, so is this already funded? Or are you guys are looking for just concepts for improvement, or this is going to be to designate these roads on the high entry network and make them eligible for future funding? But what is the purpose, intent of this study, and what is the next step? Like the next step?
Okay, Vision Zero implementation studies. These were requests. You know, we talk about the Unified Planning Work Program, and we go around to each of the jurisdictions and we ask for ideas that they would request the TPO fund of their planning studies. This was a request of the city of Tampa to study two of their designated high injury network corridors. In the past, I've been the project manager for, hold on.
Or the Hillsborough County?
They're city roadways, county owned and maintained. So they have two layers of complexity. I've done county owned and county maintained corridors before as well, where we do a planning level study and we determine feasible different techniques to help improve the safety on the corridor. And then they're provided to the local jurisdictions to then refine and move forward in more detailed analysis. It helps them get an idea of a rough magnitude of costs. It helps them pursue grants. So the corridors may not be built exactly as the first level conceptual ideas are studied as a TPO level study. Do this for school analysis too. We go out and study and do road safety audits in and around schools. They're not exactly fleshed out. Oh, the stormwater is going to perform perfectly. This is the dimensions of the crosswalks. They're like ideas, and then the jurisdictions are provided the studies and they use them to pursue funding and implementation. So that's the next step. If they're accepted, then they're provided back to the jurisdictions to work out. In this case, we have two jurisdictions, and so there's an interlocal agreement. They have to figure out what else they would need. They've already identified that they would like to have some additional traffic analysis completed before they would pursue the recommendation. Could also be a tool to be provided if they're doing their resurfacing programs. They might use some of the ideas to provide their consultant that's designing the road resurfacing.
So, Lisa, will there be additional traffic analysis and access management analysis done on this corridor before this project is built?
That's, yes.
What else in the room? Chris Bella, is your hand up now or is that an old hand?
It's up.
Okay.
So, okay, yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair. So, Lisa, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I just want to say fantastic job getting Tool on board. It's so great to see someone else other than Tendo Oliver and Tool. You can go, anybody here can just look up their work. Everything they do is spot on. Results are perfect. These guys are really, really good. I don't work for Tool. I'm not pitching them, but their work is the Rolex watches of the transportation world. So I would definitely like to see this move forward. And just a point of clarification. So you're saying that Waters Avenue and Sly are both city-owned streets. Is that correct? You said own and operated.
Yeah, I misspoke. Sorry, they're city roadways. So they're
Okay.
they asked for the study. They're owned and maintained by the county.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Because I did mention earlier in this meeting, and I just want to bring this up to everybody in the room, that tomorrow the city of Tampa is going to pursue potentially a $20 million grant from FHWA. They're going to get awarded. So it's been awarded. They're just going to have to accept it. So this could be a great opportunity. I've been on these streets since I was a little boy. I'm talking like 81, 82. Nothing has changed. So we cannot keep the status quo of what's happening here. And Waters Avenue, I want to point out, is a significant busway. There's a lot of park buses there. So we really need to improve this area. And I think this is the right step in the right direction. And thanks for clarifying that this is city-owned roads, because I think with that grant money, we can have opportunity to fix this. And I will just say this as the last piece before I exit out here. This tool is really good. I know everybody's going to hate this, but they have removed interstates and then done proposals, and everything works. Again, they are just spot on with this work, and they think first about pedestrian safety. So thank you for getting them on board. I appreciate that.
Okay, just to clarify, city limits, inside the city limits, county owned, county maintained.
Okay, money can change around. Interlocal agreements. All right, thanks.
Hey, I saw your hands flapping in the breeze. Do you have something?
Yes, I would like to clarify, the $20 million that Chris is mentioning are state, it's a grant, it's a federal grant from State Streets for All. It is specified to specific projects. I am not 100% sure which project, if Sly and Waters are on that list, but there is a specific list that is going to be covered for that $20 million. That's why I asked Lisa, is the intention of the study is to apply for additional grants, for safety grants, for feds or whatever, or is it already on the list? So let's not confuse them. And if the feds already gave us the money, we cannot put something on the list right now. We already have a list that was prioritized on the high entry network by the city of Tampa, and that is what's going to, what's going to the council tomorrow or whenever the next council meeting is actually us signing the agreement with the feds so that we can get the $20 million. So we're not gonna change anything, but what the agreement has already been approved. It's a bit now, like we're just signing now the contract to get the money. So let's not change anything on that list, please. Thank you.
All right. Dr. Davis.
Yeah, we're not defining this.
This is a county-owned street, county-maintained street. That's the responsibility. So county money to be spent to fix this street.
Wait, I have to, also he's gonna agree. What is county owned and county maintained? So what does the city have to do with it then?
That's what I'm saying, but the grants that they're getting is going to the city.
It's
of
in the
Tampa.
city limit.
Okay, it's located in the city. It's owned by the county.
Not gonna
The
spend
county
their money
pays
on
for the
this.
resurfacing of the roadway. There's an interlocal agreement that specifies who's responsible for what. The city, in this case, has a bigger say in the design of the road and what they would like to see on it, but the county's paying for it, so they have to come to agreement. I think that's part of why they asked the TPO to do the study, is because it's very complex with all the players involved. So they were all part of the discussions and they all were part of this study development. And yes, it wouldn't be put on a list tomorrow because there's more massaging that has to occur.
Okay, may I ask another question? I'm sorry, I'll clarify your question. So Chris, you have the list for what that's going to the council tomorrow for the Safe Streets for All for the city of Tampa? And is Lion
No.
Waters on that list? Okay,
There's not a list defined. Shane Duncan is the head of transportation for the city of Tampa, and she did not define any projects whatsoever to receive this grant money. So my point was that if this does move forward, it potentially could be a candidate.
okay, but anyway, that we're moving at, we're going, okay, we're confusing two things. Yeah, the funding that has already been assigned to specific projects, let's not disturb that right now. We have a study in front of us on this agenda, and Lisa's presenting to say that there was a study done, and she wants us to look at it, and she wants us to see if we agree with that study or not. Let's not disturb other grants, because also the county, I can open a new can of worms and say, the county also won another Safe Streets for All grant. Is this project on that kind of grant? So let's not talk funding,
No.
because that has already been established.
Okay.
The geographical truth to what Lisa's saying is that these roads are in the city of Tampa. So the city of Tampa does have jurisdictions over this based on interlocal agreements. Anybody in government would know this.
All right, let's stay focused on the study at this point, please. That's all we're being asked to adjudicate. Are there any more comments in the room? Any more comments online? I have a question. It's definitional. If I understand.
Oh.
That's all.
If I understand correctly, Lisa, we are being asked to accept the study as the CAC. Is that correct? That is the ask.
You're being asked to recommend that the TPO accept the study.
Recommend that the TPO accept the study. Okay. All right.
Can I pass a motion? Propose a motion.
A is recognized for purposes of a motion.
I would like to propose a motion to accept the study. Second.
All right. We have a motion. We have a second from Carolyn Brown. Is there any commentary or questions on the motion?
One more question.
Dr. Davidson.
When those studies are done at the end, you said they have to do all of it. If they show that what Ed was talking about is going to occur, this won't be at the point of no return. In other words, what we're talking about, that they can always cancel that.
If I may,
Or change the way they do
they
things.
still have to do, if you don't mind me, they still have to do engineering, like traffic analysis, access management analysis, and design analysis to ensure that all these concepts or all these beautiful pictures are actually engineering and technically feasible and constructible. So
Just want to get that on.
we're way ahead.
This is
Any-
yes, first step in many steps. Yes, the design can change, the jurisdictions can change their mind, they could table things, Yes, this is just a planning level feasibility study. That's the first step and a tool to get farther down the road.
All right, we have a hand up, Artie Fryer.
Yeah, I'm listening to this. What I'm concerned about with that roadway is the resurfacing. So if it's city, I'm gonna presume during the design, what's going to be incorporated in that is resurfacing and making sure that the roadway now is improved on both of these. Am I correct? Is that part of what's going to be the study and included in the recommendation?
The recommendation, okay, the recommendation was to do a Vision Zero placemaking study for 2 high injury network corridors. Waters and Sly were selected, and we looked at 6 alternatives, and the 3-lane was preferred by technical at this level and the community at this time. So resurfacing is handled in mobility and public works departments, not the TPO planning department. So what the city or the county come up with on the resurfacing design, and whether you consider that an improvement or not an improvement, is not something I can answer.
Okay, any other questions online? Right, and I see no hands in the room. We have a motion, we have a second. Gail, would you be kind enough to call the roll?
Gail, you're not unmuted. Okay.
Nope, I was taking care of other things. Okay, I was taking care of other unmuted folks. Okay. Rick Fernandez.
Yes.
Stephen Hollenkamp.
Yes.
Dana Lazarus.
Yes.
Jim Davison.
Take this next step, yes.
Carolyn Brown.
Yes.
Joseph Citro.
Yes.
Aya Yassin.
Yes.
Bill Roberts.
Yes.
Don Skelton.
Yes.
Ed Marszewski.
Now,
Ilya Lashnov.
Yes.
Greg James, you're in the room, right?
I am.
You haven't spoken up that I have missed you on all of these votes. Greg James.
Yes. Let's go on and take.
Avia Adams.
Yes.
Stephen Jones.
Yes.
Did I miss anybody? The motion passes 13-1. Chair, if I might, Mr. James, did you wish to put your vote in on any of the others that have taken place?
Abstain.
Thank you.
Okay, that closes out item B. Now we're item C. Access 2050 Plan Public Outreach Survey results.
Harmony McGee is here virtually. Harmony?
Yes, one moment while I share my screen. Are you all able to see that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, awesome. So again, my name is Harmony McGee, TPO staff. Today, I will be presenting the Access 2050 survey results. So just a quick overview again of the Access 2050 survey. It had 3 main screens. So it had the priority screen, which asked community members to rank their transportation priorities, the funding sources screen, where they would indicate how we should pay for the transportation priorities, and then the major project screens, allowing participants to choose specific projects they support or do not support from around the county. So now we'll get into how we spread the word. From January 30th through April 15th, the TPO spread the word about the survey. We got in touch with urban, suburban, and rural residents, and we got a large number of responses with a countywide distribution. For our public engagement, we use several distribution methods. So some of our more popular ones were the bus ride-alongs, where we rode on HART buses to get feedback from transit riders, as well as our partnerships with local organizations, and also our social media campaigns. In total, we did 45 events, which is what this map is displaying, and the red lines are the bus routes that we took. We use a data-driven approach for engagement, and to ensure we reached all communities, we also made sure to provide multilingual and ADA compliant options. And we were able to see the data in real time, so we also continued to adjust our engagement strategy throughout the survey to ensure all audiences were being reached. So now we'll dive into our survey participants. The goals for our survey were to get a large number of responses with a significant countywide distribution and to engage harder to reach communities. This presentation will provide a countywide overview of the survey results, and I'll brief individual board members on their districts voted for each of these survey questions. And if you all would like a more detailed analysis of this, you can ask for it upon request. So for the survey results, we had over 4,600 participants. And we had 8 participants who provided a home zip code that was located in Hillsborough County. So this is a map of the countywide representation for the residences. The highest proportion of residences were from the orange and blue areas that you see, and the lowest concentrations were in the light and dark green areas. It is important to keep in mind that some of the orange and blue areas are more densely populated with residences and or workplaces, so that lends itself to more responses. Targeted efforts in harder to reach areas produce excellent results, notably in East Tampa, the University area, and South County areas, including Wamama and Sun City Center. This map shows the work in presentation. These survey results closely match the countywide average across demographics, including race, gender, the highest proportion of residences were again in the orange area, the lowest concentrations were in green. And we'll reach other map.
Sorry
Yes.
to interrupt, but you're freezing, so I'm gonna pull up the slides here in the room.
Okay.
Because we're unable to see them. So,
Can you hear me?
You're going a little in and out. Hopefully when you stop sharing your screen, that will prevent that from happening. I'm gonna pull up the result of this right now, and just, I know we're running a little behind on time as well. Okay.
So yes, for the countywide representation, the highest proportion of residences were from the orange areas, and the lowest concentrations were green areas. And again, keep in mind that the blue area numbers of workplaces. Now we'll see the survey results. So the priority screen, again, community members were asked to rank their priorities 1 through 5 out of the 7 options.
Turns off for video. Barbie, can you turn off your video, please? That might help as well.
Yeah. Okay. for the priorities results, the highest ranked priorities were newer, faster transit, reduce traffic jams, and maintain bridges. For the funding screen, respondents were asked to approve or disapprove of specific funding sources using the method. For the community investment tax, the strongest support was for renewing the existing half-cent CIT tax, and a slim majority supported increasing the CIT tax to 1 cent. For the gas tax, the strongest support was for maintaining the existing gas tax, and more than 70% of respondents rejected both letting the gas tax expire and increasing the gas tax. For the transit service property tax, the strongest support was for maintaining the existing tax at current levels, and 65% rejected doubling the tax. For solar, of respondents said they like to see new tolling on existing roads.
Honey, you're going really in and out. If I may, I'm gonna see if I can pull up the speaker notes and speak to the slides, and then if you could fill in if I miss anything, I think that would help because we're really having trouble understanding you in the room. Is that okay?
Yes.
Sarah, this is Lisa. I could make a stab at it if you would prefer, but either one is fine.
I've got it, but just we spend
Okay,
how much
great.
time you miss a key point. So here you can see on this slide, option 4, we have the express toll lanes, and you can see the highest support was for toll prices to remain the same at all times. But there was some support, 56%, for adding new toll lanes on existing highways to manage congestion. Option 5, these are other funding sources. These will require some action. Some of them, like by the Florida legislature, generally speaking, there was not a lot of support for them, but you could see there was support for creating an electric vehicle fee to use charging stations. The next screen, this is the major project screen where people were asked to put a thumbs down or thumbs up on the major projects. We solicited input on the projects from our local governments and board members. We modeled them to see how they performed technically, which happened at the May board meeting. And then what we were asking for here in the survey is to see what kind of support there was or was not from the community to help us understand if the community would like to see them move forward or not. There were 4 newer modified interchange projects, and we received these at the meeting when we talked about the survey. And you can see here the percent yes or no for each of these shown on the screen. And the most support of these was for the I-75 reconstruction at US 301. And there was very little difference in support for the I-75 near Hardy Road View. And no support or less support for the I-75 new one near Fort Hammer. More people said no than yes. For highway widening projects, there were a number of these, and you can see here there was support generally for the US 301 elevated extension from the Selma Expressway to Big Bend Road. You can see there was little difference in the yeses and nos, slightly more yeses than nos. For State Road 60 from South Belrive Road to Polk County line. Also a slim margin for Lithia Pinecrest Road. Going to elevated and managed lane projects. You can see here there was a support for the I-4 managed lanes. And not a lot of public support compared to the yeses for the Suncoast Road widening project. Going on to the transit projects you can see generally there was support across the board, people supporting them as opposed to people saying no to them. Projects by level of support, so you can see here the list of the projects and their level of support, and looking here at the bottom that's highlighted, these are projects that had little yeses compared to no, so slightly more support than not, but low margins. And the projects here on this list were not supported. We'll go through a couple of the trends that we noticed consistently in the comments we received. These were comments that people could provide throughout. So you can see here, people talked about wanting to be able to get around without a car. When you add more lanes, there are more cars. Reducing crashes, especially with bicyclists and pedestrians. That major roads are needed to grow with the amount of traffic. And the idea of introducing real comprehensive light rails in the area will be revolutionary. So these are sample comments that we heard and generally heard in different ways. A little bit about where we are and what comes next. So in May, the board received the technical memo for the major projects. They will hear this presentation and the tech memo at their meeting in June next week. Between now and August, we'll be working on the cost feasible analysis and the board will decide which projects, based on what they've heard, should be put into the cost feasible plan based on what they heard, and will provide staff recommendations. Then in August to September, the public will be reviewing the cost feasible plan and given a chance to provide feedback. And then the public hearing is scheduled in October on the long range transportation. The recommended action we're asking of you tonight is to accept the public engagement technical memorandum.
Any questions or comments from the room? Dana?
For the map that shows where there was high participation in the county, it goes by number for these census tracts, I believe. But then it was mentioned that it might be more orange or more green because of the concentration of people there. So it doesn't really tell us what I want to know. If that map could be redone to show the relative concentration of responses to the population of that census tract, which you can do by just dividing, my brain is not working well right now, but I know I've done it before. You can just like divide the number by the population or something.
Density map.
Yes. I'm also interested in kind of an overall number of county versus the cities. How many people within the city of Tampa, how many people within unincorporated county, and how many people within Temple Terrace, Plant City. Is that something that is readily, that you can tell us right now, or that?
How many of these do you have that information, or is that something we have to follow up on?
We would have to follow up on that. We do have some slides that are showing of the demographic information that are hidden slides that you might be able to pull up, but as far as segmenting between Plant City and Temple Terrace, we don't have that on hand.
Yeah, because I feel like the whole number of those within those boundaries would be interesting in terms of the responses to like some of the projects. I did want to ask about the demographics, so I'm curious if you can see those slides.
I'll see if I can pull them up.
That is something that was included in LRTP's past. It'll show like the breakdown of underserved communities, people within communities of concern. I think that's important. Who responded?
I believe I can share them, just give me a moment.
Yeah. They don't need to.
So. For the slide. Okay, here's one with race, gender, age, and employment. And then I believe we have another slide following this.
Hi, this is Lisa Silva. I'm also involved in the Access 2050. So Dana, you're correct. This is the high level initial presentation of the results. We do have like ad nauseum, super detailed. We have zip code maps and overlaid with county districts and city districts that we're developing. They're hot off the presses, and we're QCing them, and those will be available on the LRTP page as we get them fleshed out, and some of the raw data is getting shared with the TPO board. That will all get then refined in the final Access 2050 survey and public engagement portion of the LRTP. That, you know, all the little pieces are coming together as we move closer to adoption. Tonight is just the high level. Hey, we heard from this many people. They said this, and this is generally what they voted on. And now we're diving into the details. So you're just a little ahead of the game. We will have that detail. It's just being developed.
Thank you.
Any other questions in the room? Dr. Davis?
I said, it's been a great presentation. I mean, this is just a snapshot. It's not a statistically significant paper, but the bottom line is what I want to know is how you came about to get a 1 cent CIT tax. How did you arrive at 1 cent? You can't do that unless you tell the people you're going to vote out the Energy County healthcare tax. And that would affect the answer for sure.
Lisa or Harmony?
In other words, you can't get rid of the Energy County healthcare tax without a referendum. And you can't increase the CIT tax to 1% without getting rid of the Energy County healthcare tax. It's not legal. And that question that you asked up there wasn't a proper question. Even though more than half.
The definition of the CIT and what would be required to do the CIT was available in a little information bubble. And we did say that, you know, any and all of these funding mechanisms would require a referendum, but we were just ground truthing some high level funding tools, like extend it, let it expire, make it bigger. It was just like some big concepts of same with the gas tax. Let the gas tax expire, extend it, increase it, property tax. It was just these getting answers on funding questions is important for like what you're going to hear more from Elizabeth, you know, to develop the cost feasible portion of the plan. And then also what the BOCC sought, you know, feedback from the community on. So that's how the wording and the concepts got developed.
All right, thanks.
Comments or questions from the room? Online, Chris Bella.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So I just wanted to point out that this is only including, I think if I did my calculations correctly, 0.000375% of the county. And I had a problem with this survey when I took it because it's largely about interstate systems. That's all it is. And so my question is to staff is, did FDOT provide any money for this survey, given the fact that at least over 50% of the survey has to deal with the roads? I'm assuming FDOT did not provide any money to you guys. And so we're doing a survey for FDOT. Am I assuming that that's correct? Because the survey is filled with interstate work.
Okay, I don't see Harmony unmuting herself, so I'll go ahead and answer that. Absolutely, DOT did not fund the survey. The survey is not a scientific or statistically significant. It actually covers a lot more people. You know, we got 4,635 people. We already know from many, many surveys that trails are popular and certain other projects are popular. We had to ask the questions on the projects that are going to be tough decision points for the TPO board. So that's why you see the 26 major projects being tested. Clearly, we don't have funding for all those projects and tough decisions are going to have to be made. We do not have the funding buckets all figured out. You know, we do not have funding. The surtax expire, you know, like there's a lot of mess. There's a lot of things that we had to test. And so, no, nobody influenced the design of this other than the TPO's direction to staff on what they needed feedback on so they could make and proceed with the adoption and development of the LRTP.
Okay, so I'm talking about three. Yes, let me just finish up really here. The demographics, so this is about where my seat is at large. For Native Americans, I don't think we even hit a 1%. And for Caucasians, we hit 75%. So with that point, because all the other demographics are low, and I'm reading this from directly from your report. I don't think we should move forward with this project. It is a very, very slanted. It doesn't represent all the culture we have in Tampa or Hillsborough County. And then two, it is putting subsidization on a very, very small minority of the population to support multi-billion-dollar projects that can be devastating environmental impacts for minorities like myself. So I'll just end it there.
Okay, any other questions or comments online? Any other hands up? Anybody else in the room? I do have a question to whomever would care to answer it. Who actually designed this survey?
A collection of, a lot of staff, and it was taken to the TPO board for approval, and we had consultant support, a public engagement consultant of the TPO GPC teams assisted us in the design of it.
We have an ask. What was the ask slide?
The ask is to accept the public engagement technical memorandum.
Say that again.
It is to accept the public engagement technical memorandum. So it's.
Have I actually seen the technical memorandum? Is
The
that what
technical
you
memorandum was included in your agenda.
Okay, it wasn't presented here.
This was the presentation on the technical memorandum. So the contents of your presentation this evening are reflective of what was included in the technical memorandum. It's a very extensive memorandum. And Lisa or Harmony, please correct me if I'm misspeaking.
Nope, that's accurate. Just like, I summarized the study that was in the PowerPoint. It's not, it's attached to your thing. It's on the website. And this is just another piece. You've accepted the cost feasible technical memorandum. You've looked at the needs technical memorandum. You looked at the real choices technical memorandum. This is just the public engagement technical memorandum. It is not determining exactly what projects get funded at all. It's just another tool in the toolbox provided to your elected and appointed officials for adoption.
Okay, is there an enabling motion? Stephen Hollenkamp.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, Mr. Hollenkamp makes the original motion. Dr. Davison seconds. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Dana Lazarus.
Lisa, do you know the name of the consultant for the engagement?
Yes, EXP, and they're a sub to Atkins.
Okay. So looking at my discussion point to the motion, looking at the demographic slide that you showed, it looked like there was a higher representation in the survey responses of those demographics that were on those slides than within the county, which is good. To Chris's point about Native Americans not being represented, I want to add a motion to do an additional outreach effort to reach some Native American organizations, do a call for Native Americans to respond to the survey. I don't know if that reaches the need that Chris was talking about, but I agree with him that, they're an important demographic.
I mean, well, why only Native American voters? So we should also every minority, any group, like Middle Eastern as well. Like, I don't know how many.
I think they look at the demographics in terms of the demographics on the census. So there are specific demographics like Pacific Islander, those kinds of representations. So maybe whatever demographics from the census that are underrepresented in the responses, can there be an extra effort to reach out to them?
If I may, so we're taking the analysis that is in the public engagement. We're starting to move forward with the development of cost feasible scenarios. And you'll hear more on that tonight. Hopefully, there's time, but we definitely can keep that in mind. And we will be doing additional outreach, as I said, later this summer and early fall. So we can definitely We do have contacts with some of the groups you mentioned. We've been trying to reach out to them. We do rely on your help as well as our citizen advisory community to help us reach groups. If you have connections in your community, please share them with us or help share the message because that helps us reach more people. But we can definitely keep that in mind and work towards that as we do the additional outreach efforts. And I hope that addresses your comment.
But you're asking us to approve the results.
We're asking to approve the technical memorandum that discusses the results of the survey is closed. We are not able to open it at this time again. So we don't have access to that platform anymore. So we could not replicate that survey on time.
Okay, so the motion is directed towards the memorandum.
Yes, we're asking to approve the technical memorandum.
Okay, that was your motion. And it was your motion. Who seconded it? Dr. Davison seconded it. Is there any more discussion on this motion? Nobody online. Gail, would you call the roll, please?
To be clear, are we doing the Dana's amendment or the original motion?
No, there was no amendment. It's the original motion.
Okay. Rick Fernandez,
No.
Stephen Hollenkamp,
Yes.
Dana Lazarus,
Yes.
Jim Davison,
Yes.
Carolyn Brown,
Yes.
Joseph Citro,
Yes.
Aya Yassin,
No.
Bill Roberts,
Yes.
Don Skelton,
Yes.
Ed Mrzycki,
Yes.
Ilya Lashnov,
Yes.
Greg James,
Yes.
Evia Adams,
No.
Stephen Jones.
Yes.
The motion passes 11-3.
Okay, thank you. And that takes us to our last action item, vehicular traffic county report. Bashika Raman.
Good evening, committee members. This is Vishaka Shivraman. I'm Hillsborough TPO staff. And today I'm going to be presenting to you the results of the Hillsborough TPO and the City of Tampa Spring 2024 traffic counts election.
Your microphone?
Yes, can you hear me?
Might bring it a little closer to you.
Sure. So
All of them are. I think you unmuted.
Somebody's muted. They're not muted.
It's somewhere on the podium.
Okay, it should be good now. And I just apologize for the problem.
These meetings, I'll be three.
No, okay.
No, it's
Okay.
will be full.
So let me quickly explain to you the purpose of this, the traffic count study. Traditionally, traffic counts focus on vehicular traffic, and it helps to determine a congestion level of service. They form the basis of any transportation studies and planning studies. The TPO tries to keep the traffic counts updated on an annual cycle. We have a list of counts, and we try to keep it updated in a cycle, and it's typically done every 3 to 4 years. And this year, in particular, it coincides with the LRTP year. So it's really helpful because it helps to provide some data that can support the LR board decisions and other traffic studies. Again, this slide. I think when I try to build it.
When did those come up?
Is it still on?
Yeah, so again, coming back to the presentation.
It's really stuffy.
Okay, I got my phone.
So it's hot, yeah.
Sean,
Oh, the building shuts down, that's why the lights turn off at 8.
okay, I think I was getting unmuted every time I was trying to advance the slides. So this slide will help you to understand additional reasons to support why the traffic counts is important, because Tampa Bay is one of the fastest growing metros in the region. And that has been adding to the traffic stress on the network. And this study is very important right now due to these reasons. This is a summary slide showing the number of count locations that have been studied as part of the 2024 counts program. TPO coordinated with the city of Tampa, Hillsborough County Plant City, and the city of Temple Terrace back in 2023. And we have been trying to coordinate with them to get a list of locations that they would like to be counted just because of the enormous amount of growth that's happening in the region. This project was also achieved with the partnership with City of Tampa, who helped to pay to some of the counts so that we could get an extensive counts. This is the first time, like I said, in almost 4 years where the counts have been updated. So we did a comprehensive counts, and some of the new locations which have been requested by the jurisdictions have also been added to the TPO count locations. This slide will show a map of some of the locations that are included in the traffic counts program. They are color coded according to the jurisdiction that requested them, not necessarily in any other order. And as you can see here, City of Tampa, Temple Terrace, Plant City, and Hillsborough County, and the rest of it is all TPO count locations, and they are throughout the city. I would just like to show the slide to help you understand the methodology of the traffic counts collection. These were counted for 48 hours continuously over a period of 2 days. And the counts included, from the counts, we all calculated the average daily traffic, the peak, and the peak hour volume was also collected, as well as the 15-minute increments by direction. They were collected from Monday through Thursday. And we made sure that they were collected avoiding holidays, special events, and non-school days. Any locations that were within 3-mile radius of a school was made sure that they were collected on a school day while the school was in session. And the details of the counts are included in your traffic counts report, which is linked in the agenda packet. This is a slide to show the methodology of how the traffic counts was collected. We use cameras to install the cameras at various locations along the corridors. And they were counted, and the bottom 2 images in the slides will help you to understand how they were actually recorded. This is just a slide for illustrative purposes. This is also included in the report as an appendix. This is a detailed list of the counts. As you can notice on that slide, it has the roadway name, from and to description, the directional volume, whether it was east, west, and northbound. And it also collected the average daily traffic, and using the factor ADT was calculated and the service level of service was calculated based on the TPO's methodology. This is another slide to quickly help you to understand the project schedule. As I had mentioned earlier, TPO reached out to the partner agencies back in last year. So, and we were able to consolidate the list of locations that have to be included. Staff prepared a map with all the locations, and we reached out to the consultant. And after the project kicked off, the project was counts were collected during March 2024. The data was consolidated, reviewed, and processed during the next few months, and the report is being presented to the committees and the board in June. Since they were collected using cameras, the project was performed in a very quick schedule. And with that, I would request you that you recommend that, accept the report and recommend to the TPO board for adoption.
All right, any questions? Yeah.
My question is, did you coordinate, was this coordinated effort with FDOT so that they have your counts and their counts kind of work together?
Yes. We got in the sense that we did not reach out to them. Their counts are available in their online traffic platform. So we made sure that all the locations which were within a 0.5 mile radius of a FDO count location was excluded. We also excluded any counts that were collected in the recent times. So this was mainly to fill the gaps of what has not been collected in the last 4 years, before 4 years. So any location that has not been counted in the last 5 years, any location that was not in the proximity of an FDOT location were all included into the traffic counts for this year.
Are these counts going to be added on the database with FDOT as well, like just for data sharing purposes?
Yes and no. We actually link the report goes into our database, and we have a map. It's a mapping tool that is in our traffic counts page that lists all the locations. We also link the FDOT counts. We do not, it's not in one combined database for viewing purposes.
Okay, and my final question is, so these counts are eventually going to calculate growth rates for the count for the whole area, for the whole region, and then the LRTP needs will come out of that? Like what happens after?
So
what do you use the counts for?
Yes.
Into the LRTP, because you connected in the beginning, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, what I mentioned was that this is an LRTP year. So, and also because the last time the counts were collected was in 2020, which was not a good representation of the counts. So this year it is very helpful to show some of the growth areas. We do not do any forecast, but this will help to feed into any of the projects and the TPO studies, and also in any jurisdictions that need to use this. We have particularly, I mean, this is one of the very popular reports, and citizens do reach out to us with concerns and saying that traffic is growing in our area. So this also has the traffic counts in our website. So you can go back and see how the growth has been in these regions, some of the high growth regions.
Okay, any other questions in the room? Chris Vella online.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So I do have a couple questions. And you mentioned about the time frame. You said, I think you said you took the traffic counts during peak hours. Is that correct?
The 15 minutes and the peak hour, yes.
Okay, and then just because, so another question, just because I value the cost of roads a lot. Did you take a snapshot on non-peak hours? So maybe after 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night, were you able to take a snapshot of that?
This was collected for a 48-hour period continuously. So although it does report the 15 hours, 15-minute intervals, the AADT is based on the continuous 48-hour counts and average for that.
Okay. And then my other question is, do you know how much cars are coming from state roads to these roads that you're studying?
Not necessarily, because these were conducted along a corridor and not at, like, it wouldn't record a turning movement count. Is that what you are trying to see, where the traffic is coming from?
Well, I want to know what traffic is state road traffic versus county road or local road traffic. That's what I'm trying to, because the problem is it becomes a state road TDM issue, right? And it's not your issue. So I don't want the county or taxpayers to subsidize FDOT's problem. So you don't know if any state road traffic's going on these roads, right?
So that answers part of that was what asked earlier was whether state roads, FDOT conducts their own program on their state roads and their major, this is just the TPO network, which includes city, county roads.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah. Hand up.
I just wanted to add to her is that these are only at spot locations and not origin destination. Like, we're not looking at movement from one area to the other. We're just looking at specific locations. So we're not doing an analysis of what's from to where and what link and what's affecting what.
Okay. Any other questions or comments in the room? Dana?
Is data collected on how long peak lasts at those locations? Like, if peak traffic is for 10 minutes versus 45 minutes?
I don't think that we provide that level of detail. Can you?
Peak hour is the.
Okay, wait. There's a question to the presenter. Has it been answered?
I was trying to answer that, are you asking about whether it defines peak hour?
I guess I understand that peak hour is socially defined as like 5 to 5:30 or whatever. But I just think about like peak capacity, like if there's LOS, D or F. To me, that's peak. It's not necessarily socially defined. So I was just wondering if that like peak capacity is measured in a time, like a period of time. Since it's a 48-hour measurement, it would be interesting to see like how long that, like the highest number of cars was going. Does that make sense?
It's just available in the report. Actually, there is a sheet per location, a page per location, which gives you that level of detail. But we are not defining that peak hour from here.
All right, any other questions or comments in the room? Anybody else online? All right, we have a recommended action before us, recommended that the TPO board accept the report. Is there a motion? Dr. Davison moves, AAC seconds. Any further discussion on the motion? Online, anybody? Nope. Gail, call the roll. Please.
Rick Fernandez,
Yeah.
Stephen Hollenkamp,
Yes.
Dana Lazarus,
Yes.
Jim Davison,
Yes.
Carolyn Brown,
Yes.
Joseph Citro,
Yes.
Aya Yassin,
Yes.
Bill Roberts,
Yes.
Don Skelton,
Yes.
Ed Majewski,
Yes.
Ilya Lashnoff,
Yes.
Greg James,
Yes.
Ivia Adams,
Yes.
Stephen Jones.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, 14-0.
Okay. Sarah has a suggestion of how we might negotiate through the status report and get us out of here by 9. Sarah?
Yes, recognizing the time, I spoke with the presenter of the next item. They're willing to meet with interested members at another time. If any members would like to take them up on this, please let me know. We'll have to schedule that meeting for sunshine purposes. So, you can raise your hand or email me if you want to think about it. I see Mr. Dr. Davison. I am.
Yeah, you're welcome. Can you do an online presentation?
Yes. So we'll invite everyone. I'll do a poll, given the response. I'll do a poll of the CAC members to see your availability. It can be online because we're not asking you to take action, but it will be noticed for sunshine purposes. So it won't be like tomorrow, but it will be upcoming. In the poll, I'll also share with you the link from the TAC meeting because I received a presentation on it. For those who might be interested but don't want to attend, you can watch that video. But I will be in touch shortly, given the interest about getting that scheduled.
I just have one question concerning that. Can you supply members that are interested in this with the financials from the last 3 long-range transportation plans? It would be astounding when I see it.
I can get with the project manager and see what we can do.
Okay.
The other thing is, you need to break down where you have in the scenarios, you're not able to finance, say, road maintenance. Don't break it down into where that falls out. The state tells you they have enough money to do all the road maintenance. Plant City has enough money to do all the maintenance, they don't even make that statement, so we need to know where in those efficiency categories, who's the one who's dropping it.
Be available at the time of the meeting.
Okay, our next CAC meeting is August the 7th. Remember the TPO public hearing on the tip is a week from tonight. So make sure that's on your save the date and the rest of this we can defer. We're adjourned.
So about you were visualizing maybe a grant.
Thank you.
One of those locations.
What is? Chris?
He does. It's relevant.